Yo, it looks like from the people that watched the previous video, we finally managed to start the downfall of Nanakash himself. So I'm very proud of you guys learning how to play and having certain characters. It seems to be really working. Another thing that made me really happy is that we managed to get the number from 96% in the last video to 92% in the current time. And I'll be even happier if we make that number even lower this video. So please subscribe if you can, and I will be glad to get you guys even more content. Once again, this is a part 2 of the last video, so if you haven't watched that one, I would suggest watching that one. And then today we're going to cover the other categories that I didn't get to mention in the last video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Biggest category, it's a projectile category. These are characters that have either like a hook or a very threatening skill shot that you want to dodge, and if you dodge that one thing, you're probably fine. So Kathy, we have her E, which is a switcher. She pretty much tosses out this projectile that if it hits you on another character, player, animal, anything, or even a wall, it will condemn you and it will stick you together into it. And that's one of the biggest things. So whenever you're fighting a Kathy, you don't really want to stack together too closely with your teammates, and you also don't want to be against a wall. Otherwise, she will get a free stun, and then that will combo into her ultimate, which will do massive amount of damage. She does have a lot of dashes, and she also can go stealth. So she's going to be using that to try to get angles on you, so then she can use her E to put you in a really bad situation. We have Adela. Adela pretty much with her Q, she starts tossing pawns, but after she tosses 3 of them, she then gets her queen, her empowered version. If the queen hits you, you're almost guaranteed to be dead unless you're a tank, and even if you're a tank, it's gonna hurt a lot. So you just don't want to get hit by queen. When Adela does have her queen stack, you can see her glow, and she also gets a movement speed increase. So it should be a pretty good indication that you should run away, or you should be prepared to dodge her queen. So dodge queen and you're fine, or get hit and lose the fight. Next in the projectile category, I have Laura. Laura is a bit of a tricky one. Pretty much everything revolves about her W, and what I want to highlight here. Pretty much if she lands her W into an enemy, it will mark them, and then if she does that, then she will get the option to use her R as a hook onto them, which can be pretty devastating if she gets to do that. And you'd say, okay, but W is like a short range and it's front to back, it doesn't really go through enemies. But the thing with W is that it steals defense. So even if you're a tank, it's going to steal defense. Laura now is a lot tankier and you're a lot squishier, and then she's going to pull you and hook you into her team. We're all going to damage you. So for the most part, you want to make sure you're dodging this W, or if she hits you with this W, that you're very careful until it expires. Next up in the list, we have a simple one. So Lennox has a W, which pretty much just has a hook, a very standard hook that just pulls you towards her team. She will usually then flail you. So you're gonna be CC'd for a long time and right into her team if she hits you with that. So just dodge the hook. It's as simple as that. In a very similar fashion, we have Isaac. It's another hook that he has on his E. So his E has 2 parts. First, he has a dash. He will then pull as in AoE. So he could pull multiple people at the same time, which could be pretty bad. For the most part, after you see him dash, because reminder, he does have 2 dashes. He has a point and click dash, where he dashes onto a person, and then he has a dash that he can just do, and then the second part of it is the pull. So when you see him dash into nothing or without a point and click, then you get to be careful and dodge the pull. That's going to be following it up. Next we have Sua. So Sua technically has more than one thing you should be avoiding, but I'm going to cover one that a lot of people don't see coming, which is with their Q. A lot of times when people see Sua's Q, they try to just not get hit by the center of the skill. Which is true, you should not be hit by the center, but if the ability hits you at all, she puts this little mark on top of you, and the thing with the mark on top of you is that if she then goes and casts her an empowered Q, which is the pink one, then you're gonna get stunned, and it doesn't matter if she lands the middle or if she doesn't. Of course, it's worse if you get hit by the middle, but if you get hit at all and then you have a mark, she can always just use her enhanced Q to stun you, and even do it to multiple people. So at any point you get the Sua mark on top of your head, you should be really careful, as she has an option to go on you. The next one I need to cover will be Nathapon. So Nathapon's main ability you gotta be careful with is his E. It's a simple skill shot. It travels kind of slow, and pretty much if it lands you, it will make a circle around you. and then he can go ahead and pull you back into it. Why is this so dangerous? Pretty much all you need to know is this is how he starts his combo. He puts E on you and then puts down his W, and then you're pretty much in hell. You're in a terrible spot. So if you get hit by E, your best options is to try to get a circle as fast as you can. Use your dash, use your flash, do whatever you can to get out of it. Do not try to walk and then dash. So just dash immediately and get out of it immediately. Do not try to walk because you will not make it in time. And if possible, just make sure this ability doesn't hit you at all. It is a very slow traveling skill shot, so be very careful. Next, Bernice. So Bernice is his ult, so he could technically be on the ult category, but I decided to keep him on the projectile category as this is the main thing you're gonna have to worry about him. So pretty much he sends out this projectile that roots you in place, and it bounces back and forth if you're standing next to your teammates. So you want to make sure you don't stack together with your team or whoever got hit by the skill, and in general you don't want to get hit by the skill. It is a very long range skill shot, even though the travel distance it's not that fast, so you could potentially just react by blinking away. But yeah, if you get hit by this ability, he's gonna start putting traps under you to get root you for even longer. So this is a very bad ability to get hit for, but it is his ultimate, so if he misses, then you have a window to punish him. The next character we need to talk about will be Mai. Mai has a taunt. It's also similar to Isaac. It has a two-part to her E. First, she dashes onto either an ally, an enemy, a camera. She can dash into many things. But pretty much she dashes first onto one of those things. It is a point and click dash, and then she gets to have a reactivation that is a normal dash, and then if that dash goes through any enemy, it will taunt them. So this one's a lot easier to see coming because it is a two-part once again. So you can see the first part of the dash, and then you can see the reactivation. That is the danger one, the taunt. But the animation is quite fast, so if you see her, you want to try to make sure you're outside of her range, because if you do get taunted by her, you're going to be in a bad spot. Then next we have another hook. This one works a little bit different. We have Cicella. So Cicella has this ball that if you play League, it's similar to Adriana, where she can cast this ball and have it really far away from her. And pretty much the way her pull works is that this pull can come up from her if she hasn't tossed her ball, or if she has her ball out in the distance, the pull will actually come out from the ball. So you want to make sure you're keeping track of where Cicella put her little bubble, and then be careful she doesn't hook you. The hook duration, like the stun duration after you get hooked, is very little, but the hook itself can make you be very mispositioned. It also deals decent damage, so you should be very careful with this. The next character for projectiles, we have Theodore, this E. So Theodore is a bit of a tricky character. A lot of people don't understand this character. Pretty much his E is a simple projectile. It's pretty slow, I would say. If the projectile hits you, it will put a mark on you that if he then hits you with anything, an auto attack, an ability, anything, it will root you in place. And the part that people don't understand about this projectile is that if he sends it through his wall that he puts down, the projectile will become faster. And if it hits you, it will then bounce onto your allies. So pretty much the way Theodore operate is they're gonna put their wall down, and when you see his wall down, he's gonna toss out his projectile. So that's when you need to dodge. And then if the projectile lands, he's gonna follow up with his ult to try to root all of you in place and give his team a speed boost and a lot of damage. So at any point you see his wall, the projectile's coming, so you want to make sure that you're ready to dodge. Sometimes that sequence can be quite fast, him putting the wall into his E, but you just want to be ready. Additionally, his E does have a very long cooldown initially, but he does get this cooldown to be lower by autoing you through his wall. So you technically have a window to punish him right after he misses, especially if you dive onto him and he's not able to auto you. But if the fight goes on and he gets to auto a lot, then he's gonna get his cooldowns back up, and this projectile is gonna keep coming back up. So you want to make sure you deal with him as fast as you can. He's very mobile, so diving him is one of the best answers for him. Next up, we have or two charm ladies. We have Priya, which is just because of guitar skill. It's skill shot that charms you towards her team. It's a very strong CC, so you want to make sure you're careful and you dodge it. And in a similar fashion, the other guitar character also has a guitar skill, so it's just the same charm. You want to be careful to not get hit by charm. Another big AoE CC, it's Vanya. So Banya ult, it's this big AoE that just has a big wind up, and then if it goes through and anything it hits, it will make drowsy and eventually sleep them, which is pretty strong CC in battles. So you want to make sure you're dodging this. Next category, a pretty short category, it's pretty much projectiles as well. So I wanted to include it with projectiles, but these are things that are not really dodgeable and more like you need to space. So I wanted to make it into a separate spacing category. The first thing I wanted to start this, so you understand what I mean with this, it's Celine. So Celine has her E, which knocks her and the enemies away of wherever she launches this. This is something, what I'm going to mention is something you don't really see in lower elo, but the really good Celines use this ability not only for her to get away, but they use it aggressively by tossing it behind the enemy and pushing them towards your team. For those that play League, I want to say that they're doing a Gragas ult with this ability. If you're a Celine, you can do this, and it's really effective and really strong. Even though you're using your defensive tool offensively, but if you catch someone off with it, it can be really strong. And then for people that are playing against Celine, this is why I mean why it's less of a dodge the projectile and more of like a spacing thing. You want to make sure you're not in the spacing where she gets to toss this behind you, because this is a really fast projectile and it's very hard to dodge. Although it is not impossible to react in time if you do see this coming. Next on the spacing, it's Tia. Tia, a lot of people get confused with her whole color combination thing. Tia's abilities have a lot of AoE, so it can be quite difficult to dodge them. That's why I want to put this more in the spacing category rather than dodge, because I think it's a lot easier to fight her if you just avoid her effective range compared to trying to dodge her abilities. So first of all, most Tia's, her longest range skill will be yellow, which is the one you want to be careful with. So yellow will almost guaranteed hit you if she's using it max range, but her follow-up will be blue, and blue has a lot shorter range, so you should try to stay, if you got hit by the yellow that she started with, you should try to stay away until the yellow expires on you. That way she doesn't hit you with blue and then you get rooted and then she gets to combo you off of it. If you got hit by blue, then I would be really careful with yellow. Yellow is a lot easier to land and it has a lot more range. So then you would actually want to dodge the skill shot rather than try to space away from it. But for the most part, that's what I would say. Be careful with blue yellow, since that's her main combo setup. Then following up, this is also spacing, but this is a lot different from the two that we talked about, and that is Daniel. So Daniel is an assassin character that a lot of people really hate because he doesn't really interact with you. All he's gonna do is just gonna get really close to you by dashing, and then he's gonna put his W on you, which is a mark, and after he puts that mark, he gets to use his ult, which goes inside of you, deals a bunch of damage, and then he goes out, and at this point you're dead. So the only thing that you can, his W is a lot of range, so he can cast it from very far, and his dash is a pretty good distance, like pretty good gap close, but his R, it's pretty short range that you actually get to go into the enemy. So when I talk about this being a spacing type thing, it's like you want to make sure you see him coming, because he's going to go for one of the squishy people in your team and try to one-shot them with this. Be careful, some Daniels do run blink, so then they have the extra layer of ability with blink, so they will W dash and also blink to get to you. To this, I would respond with my own blink. I would use my own dash and I'll use my own blink to try to get away so they don't get their R off. He doesn't get to go ult inside of someone. He then is in a really bad spot because he just uses one dash that he has, and he already cast his W, so he doesn't get to go on anyone else. So it's a really good time to punish him after that. They also have dagger skill to go invisible, so having cameras available would be really good. That way you can review him. But yeah, for the most part, right when he gets up close to you, it's doomed. So don't get really close to him. So at any point in time when there's a Daniel in the lobby, you have to be very careful about where he's currently at. Additionally, I guess another counter that I want to mention is if you have Totem Stasis, you can Stasis his ult. It's a pretty good counter. If you have Healing Wind, you're playing support. Giving your team, your squishy a heal as well as defense increase could be really good if you have a level 3. And if you're playing one of these supports that has some sort of invulnerability, like Estelle, you can give it a massive shield to your squishy. Or if you're playing Mai, you can time the Daniel ult, and then you can make your ally invulnerable and heal them with your My ult. There's a few interactions like that, but yeah, that's mainly how you counter him. Okay, the last category that I'm gonna be covering is gonna be pretty much characters that have a mechanic I consider to be important to know about, but I didn't get to include in any of the other categories. For example, the first one I wanted to cover is Nikki. Nikki has a parry on her W. That if you hit into it, she will then do this hit in front of it. It does have a direction, so she does have to point her parry towards whatever she wants to dash. And then that hit will damage you, and then it will give her an empowered E. And then it will also slow you if the actual parry hits you. So you want to be careful with Nikki and make sure you're trying to avoid hitting her parry as much as you can. It can be hard sometimes. The window is pretty generous for Nikki. If you manage to avoid hitting parry, she becomes a lot easier to deal with. David Marlene is a character that is a lot newer, but mainly the things that usually most players focus around her ult being really threatening. Which it can be, for sure. It is a good thing to focus on, but a lot of people I see don't give enough credit to her passive, especially tanks. So her passive, pretty much, she marks it with colors depending on which form she's in, and if she hits you with the opposite form, she then applies true damage onto you. This is really good fighting tanks. She pretty much is a tank shredder, and she kills tanks super easily. So you want to be very careful if you're a tank player of whether Debbie or Marlene marks you. Generally speaking, she will go into her red form and mark you with a bunch of red marks very easily. And then after you're full marked with full red, she'll go into blue and start hitting you. So yeah, she can kill tanks very easily with this. So if you're a tank player, be careful out there. Another weird one with Tazia, her E. So a lot of people seem to think that Tazia can dash infinitely to her shards. This is not true at all. Tazia has 2 dashes, and then it goes in cooldown. For the most part, Tazia is gonna dash onto her 2 things. So her dash will go on cooldown, but there's also the time where she has her sword fully charged, which means she has her big projectile that she can then launch, and it will knock you back and do a lot of damage, and then with that she will combo off of you. So for the most part, what you want to do against this character is after you see her dash twice and she has her sword ready, if you manage to dodge the sword, she doesn't have any more dashes, so then you're free to punish her right there. This is also the reason why Tazias take totem, because right after their sword and they use their 2 dashes, they want to try to make up time to refresh her dash cooldown. That way she can dash again and maybe try again, or at least get out of the bad spot she just put herself in, because she is very short range. But yeah, if you see her use her 2 dashes, that's a good time to punish her. Next mechanic, the newest character in the game, Abigail. Abigail puts marks on you with her W as well as her ult. If you have the marks on you, first of all, it gives her free vision of you, and second of all, she gets to blink on top of you, and it resets her blink, so she can blink infinitely as long as she's blinking to a mark. If she blinks to something that doesn't have a mark, it goes on cooldown. For the most part, once again, she can only do this with W and ult. W is a big cone in front of her, and ult is this big wind up that then slams down and deals a lot of damage. I would say the W is kind of unavoidable almost. You will have to play outside of her range to avoid this. But the ult with the wind up is a lot easier to manage. So you want to make sure you're flashing out of the ult or like dashing, get out of the ult, and you'll be fine. And then last mechanic I wanted to talk about, because I think it's important and it could lose you games, it's Emma. Emma has a point and click polymorph that will turn you into a bunny, and then she will then usually use her ult to go into you. And then if you're close to your team, it will also polymorph them, but also I think it extends the duration of the polymorph. For the most part, the biggest thing is she's gonna polymorph you, then she's gonna ult onto you. After that, it's a good time to punish her, or for your team to punish her, because you're probably gonna be polymorphed for a few seconds. She usually runs totem for this reason. That way she can't be punished as easily after doing that. And her team is gonna be following up when you're a bunny, so you want to be very careful doing this, since you can't really do much. And then the other thing I wanted to cover about Emma is if you're ever chasing an Emma, her Q, which is the card toss, puts a dove on the ground. If you're ever chasing Emma, you don't want to stand between her and the dove that she put on the ground, because then she will get to ult to it and it will reach you in place, and it follows up with a really strong combo that will nuke you. So if you follow Emma, just make sure
you don't stand between her and the dove.
And that was everything for this video. I know it was a long video and I didn't even cover every single character in the game, but I made sure to include every character that I thought was important for you guys to know. But in the future, maybe I'll do another video where I cover the remaining characters if I don't think they're as important to know, just as a general guide for you guys. But outside of that, that was everything from me. If you found anything useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye bye.